Without exaggerating, we can say that we are going through a time of the most change that we've ever had in human history. This is not a drill. This is actually happening, and the world that we were born in is not the same world that we have today. In fact, it changed so much over the last decades that so many people are just overwhelmed and they kind of have difficulties living into today's world. Now, in today's episode, we're going to look at why this is happening and how you can actually learn to adapt to what is asked of us as humans in the modern day and age. Hello and welcome to the Artful Maestro Podcast. I am your host, Nenad Leonart, and I am happy to be here with you in the 21st century, trying to put classical music all across the world into ears of our listeners. I've been working on my social media for over 4 years. I've been doing video productions for over 5 years. I've accumulated over 70,000 subscribers across platforms. And today I help, I coach, and I train classical musicians how to earn a living in the modern world. We're using all the different tools that we have at our disposal today. We are trying to adapt older strategies into new ones, and we are finding our way how to navigate through this kind of a labyrinth system into having a great career that is sustainable and that you can live with. Having said all that, the topic that we have today is one of the most important for me personally. If you know me, you know that I like to ask a lot why we do things. What's the purpose behind it? What's our motivations? Where this is going? What's the meaning of all of that? And again, if you know me, you know how much importance I put on these topics, because usually they are the ones that are going to make or break somebody as an artist. It's going to be either a career-defining definition, or it's going to be something that people kind of put off, and maybe they become a little bit lucky and may become a little bit unlucky, and they don't have it under their control. So life is kind of happening to them and they don't feel like they play a part in it. I advocate for something very different, which is actually learning to understand who we are, learning to understand how we work as human beings, like all our internal mechanisms, and from there, going on to work on ourselves, work on our careers, work on everything that we do with the understanding so that we can actually create permanent results, stuff that is going to be contributing for the rest of our lives to our career, our well-being, our health, basically everything. And before we dive into what we are going to look at today in detail, I would like to mention our main sponsor, which is the Artful Shop. The Artful Shop is a place for musicians where they can grab gifts for friends of theirs. They are actually music-based merchandise, which are t-shirts, mugs, and so on. So it's kind of like a print-on-demand thing. You can just go and order whatever you like, and it's going to be shipped to you in a matter of days. So if you have something that you always wanted to grab, or, like have a fancy coffee mug, like I have a couple, you can just go ahead and order with the Artful Shop, and in checkout, you can even get a 5% discount on your full order if you use the code ARTFUL5. All right, in today's episode, we want to look at the music for a modern world, which kind of means how do we adapt as musicians, and how does our art and our creativity adapt to the demands that we have in today's world of high connectivity, quick pacedness, everything is digital, and so on. So in order to understand that, we actually want to first understand what is going on in today's world. Like, what do I mean when I say the modern world? Well, in the very first episode of Artful Maestro, which is like 2.5 hours long, I go really in depth with this. So if you are interested to really find out how we are wired as humans from our Stone Age biological perspectives, you can go and check out that episode. I put every information together that I have from the sciences, from also creative thinking, from how our minds work, so that you can understand why we are in this crazy time that we are today and how this is going to impact us, all of us as a civilization. And today we're just going to quickly go through all of these details from a little bit of a different perspective. The most important things to understand is that we have a shift of resources and shift of values. So things that used to be important before, again, like resources, like material stuff, be it food, be it iron to construct things, be it wood for also building stuff or heating. This is all changing and shifting because we have automated means of production, and these resources, they are kind of getting mined with the help of machines mostly, and we are starting to focus on two other things. So the resources and the value, like of the things that we value, has shifted towards the knowledge. Most of the people right now, they are kind of knowledge workers, and we are in the so-called information age. This has been already in the last half of the 20th century, this started emerging. And now with the internet and the global connectivity, we are fully immersed, at least like in the Western countries, we're fully immersed in this knowledge kind of society. It's the digital age, which is kind of built on the information age. And basically you can think about all the jobs that you have been working, or that many people that you know are working, and most of them are going to be knowledge-based or like services-based. So people not actually going out and, going into a coal mine to get the coal out of there, or work in a field as a farmer, but they are actually sitting in an office, they're talking to others, they're creating spreadsheets, they're creating strategies, they're creating some kind of service. And all of that is kind of knowledge-based, so all of that is in the mind. Also like with music teaching, also like with music performances, these aren't like really material things that we're putting out there, but this is just like transferring of ideas, it's basically communication. Yeah. And that's why you can also say in the information age, communication is key. Now keep this in mind, because this is going to be one of the most important things that you can take away from today's episode. We also have the emergence of AI in the last couple of years, and nobody knows yet what is to come, but the predictions are that there is actually going to be a general artificial intelligence, or like the general intelligence, which we have no idea how they're going to achieve, but everybody's racing to like find that one thing that is going to be better at anything than humans are. And it is kind of a little bit scary, but it's also a little bit cool that we are at a stage in our civilization where we can take care of these things and explore and find out. I think if something like that happens, it has so many possibilities to actually create technological wonders that we as humans are just simply too limited to invent, that we just don't see the perspective. But if you have a machine that goes through every iteration and it can be really creative, it's probably going to find much better things than we were able to do up till this point. So this is what the modern world is right now. And let's do a quick juxtaposition with what we as humans are and what we come with. So we are living in this modern world, but we kind of come from the jungle. Looking at the evolution, we are kind of just very smart, evolved chimps, or maybe not so smart, depending on how you look at it. However, we are not made for this environment where we are today. And you can tell that it does not really feel natural to get up in the morning, go take a shower, do your stuff, and then drive to work, to sit all day in a place, I don't know, typing in stuff in the office, or just like doing that kind of work, then going back home, watching TV or Netflix or something. So you've heard about this sedentary lifestyle, right? We are not made for that. We were made to move. We were made to go hunt, to go collect, to be in nature, to connect with other humans, like to be social in a tribe. We were meant to be kind of survival machines, right? So that we can live through periods of stress, but also have like periods of abundance. Same thing with food. Our digestive system wasn't made to be eating regularly. We were much more made to have periods of fasting where there was no food around, and then periods where there was a lot of food around so we can eat a lot, right? Also for the movement, our species apparently evolved because we could move for an extremely long period of time. We had like this crazy endurance kind of thing going. And if you compare that to the modern world, you can totally see that this is not really matching up, right? So I think the art as a modern human being is to find, how can I take what's my resources, like what I've been given by evolution, like just the biological foundation of my being, of my body, of everything that's going on inside me. How can I take that and put it into the modern world so it actually works? And very quickly, you'll probably find out stuff like, okay, I need to put in movement. I need to go to the gym regularly or do some kind of sport. I need to socialize with people on a regular basis. I need to change up my diet so it's really supporting me instead of dragging me down or satisfying my short-term needs, and so on. So you will see that a lot of the things that we are having today have to be kind of adapted or relearned. And one of the biggest things is that we are not wired to be long-term thinking as human beings. We are more wired to be like the monkeys in the jungle who, oh, I see a nice fruit. I'm just going to eat it right now because who knows, maybe tomorrow is not around. And we are really wired into this short-term thinking. That's how you can see all the greed in the world happening. That's how you can see all these, like the climate decline that we have today, all the changes that are happening with the climate. That is because people are not capable of thinking long-term. And so you need to really put in a lot of brain power to understand that there's a climate change going on. And then, even then, so many people are stuck like on an emotional level and they don't want to accept that that is happening. They say, no. Let's deny that, because they're just not able to think in a long-term fashion. And now I've mentioned a couple of details that we're going to dive right into, and that is how our brain is wired. Like we have kind of 4 parts of the brain that we have from the evolution, and we're just going to look at how these conflict with what we have today, or maybe not even like how they conflict, but how we can use that power to transform our lives so we are actually fitting in this modern world and we can actually contribute and thrive in it, even though we are hundreds of thousands of years old evolution beings. Okay, there's going to be 4 parts of the brain that I would like to talk to you about right now. And that's the 4 parts that are kind of making up a full life or like a complete being. And it is also how our brain grew. So this is like the triune brain theory that is a little bit expanded on. So it says like we had a reptilian brain first, which is kind of physical. Then we had a mammalian brain that grew on top of that. So you have like the reptilian brain inside, but then the mammalian on top, which is the emotional brain. And then on top of that grew the neocortex, which is kind of our human brain and which is the rational, logical part of the brain. Okay, so we have like the three parts, which is going to be the physical, the emotional, and the logical. And I'll be going into these into another episode that's going to come sometime in the future, because this is a really interesting kind of perspective to look at life with. And it's also a very good mechanism if you want to kind of balance your life out and find out where your strengths are and your weaknesses. And there's even going to be a fourth one. And this fourth one is one that some people kind of overestimate, some other people underestimate. However, it's very clear that once we get all the three first covered, that when we have the physical covered, the emotional, and the logical covered, we get into the fourth dimension, which is kind of the spiritual. And I'm not going to go too much into that here. There is all different kinds of spirituality, and it can be used and abused. I'm not a proponent of any kind of religion or that people have to have any kind of beliefs. I'm just sharing like my own beliefs, which are personal experiences that I have. And they are kind of really difficult to put into words. So I haven't really found also like a religion that I completely agree with or even partially agree with. It's more like just certain deep truths. And the more I've been kind of working on myself, the more I've been finding out that a lot of stuff that is perceived to be spiritual actually isn't spiritual, but is kind of a construct of the mind to keep people distracted from what's actually going inside of them. Be that as it may, I digress. Now let's talk a little bit about what these four parts of the brain are in regards to music, how we can actually use these as a roadmap on what are the challenges in the modern world. And I'll give you some ideas how these actually can be implemented. So let's talk about the first part, which is the physical part. So in the modern day and age, we can actually change the live concerts and the physical experience of it. Actually, it's already been changing so that people aren't physically present when they are performing, but we actually listen to their recordings or we listen to a stream, something like that. So you can actually create art without being present in the room that you had to be like 150 years ago or something. Now, I say, and I still stand by this, that I feel being physical in a room with the audience, nothing beats that experience because it's very, very real and we can connect in that way with them. However, in the modern world, where people have less and less time for maybe to go into a concert or to sit the full 90 minutes through a recital or something like that, maybe we can reach them easier with shorter content, with shorter formats, with things that they can consume without having to go there and actually be present. And maybe the solution isn't to be extreme in one way or the other, but to actually try and combine both the physical, but also like the digital presence, which is necessarily featured in the real world. Same category also in the physical is all the new tech and gadgets and gear that you can get for yourself. And it is changing the music experience for everybody, like both for the performers, but also for the listeners. You will probably have seen a lot more people using tablets for their performance. Obviously, there are many ways how this can be still optimized. And I highly encourage you, if you're not doing this yet, to go and look into the world of reading music from a tablet, trying to streamline all your music library from there. It's much easier to work in that way. It's much more, I don't want to say like reliable because there's like the technology aspect of it, but just stay up to date and keep up to date with these developments. Same is with wearables or maybe even like the new 3D spatial audio kind of thing that they have been releasing, this is going to revolutionize recordings and how we actually feel about music. I've been experimenting with this myself in my free time of creating like soundscapes where you can put different elements in there. So my idea was to be in a cathedral and actually hear the organ like you are there. Like you put on the headphones and you're completely immersed. Same thing is going to be like with virtual reality, with augmented reality. So let's say you put on the glasses or the goggles or whatever, and then you could be actually physically present for the people that are watching. Like they feel like you're in the room, but you're not. So these are huge changes that with new technology can be completely revolutionizing the experience of music. And I highly encourage you to stay up to date and see what the newest developments are, because this is going to go faster and faster and faster. Now, for the emotional side of things, we have been learning much more about our emotions, about how we are developing as human beings, our childhood developments, but also like psychology and or the emotional science, emotional intelligence. So why not use this knowledge that is being compiled by experts all around the world to even further the impact of your music that you're doing? Let's say to create programs that are actually leading people through the program in a way that is constructed with emotional intelligence in mind. So not just creating a program by how you feel about it or what you want to be playing, right? But actually think about, okay, so this piece is about this emotion, and the natural way for these emotions to lead one into the next one would be according to this emotional intelligence study that these psychologists did. So let me go and create it in a way that this is actually taken care of. This would be a very interesting new way to go about things. And I highly encourage you also to get in touch with your own emotions and start working with them and start also working on yourself in this field, because this is going to be a huge breakthrough in many different fields that you're doing. But also, when you start doing that, there is like another aspect that will help you connect much more to your audience. And that's going to be like the role of emotional resonance. So you've probably figured out that people who have been through the same thing, or that they have kind of felt the same thing or similar things, they tend to bond together and they tend to stick together. And it's actually really cool if you know what's up on the emotional side and you're very aware of that, you can use that and put it into your art, and also not just put it in there because you're obviously probably doing that already, but to actually highlight it and to even be able to use words and phrases to convey this to other people, not just with your playing, but also with how you describe it, how you're living it, so that they can connect to your music much, much more deeply. This is also something that I try to do with every concert when I'm giving backgrounds into the composer, when I'm trying to explain what this music was for, to not just stay at the superficial level, but to actually go in depth and understand what kind of emotions are resonating there. So people can actually connect to it, right? And this is going to have a huge impact. So these are the emotional aspects that we can create and actually advance in the modern world. Now let's talk about the rational, logical ones. It's certainly learning about the new modern economics that are going on in the music industry. There have been many different jobs in the past, and they have been kind of classified so you can kind of count them with your hands. There haven't been that many different career opportunities in the past. And right now, every year, I guess there are many more shooting up from the ground, many different kinds of content creating, many different kinds of service providing that you can do that is all related to music, that is all related to art, and that you can actually really, really go deep. So this is something to learn on, all the financial implications of a modern career model that is both for the artist, but also for the consumers, like how they are going to spend money for art, how they are going to, let's say, support an artist or pay for certain services or for concerts or whatever. This is a huge shift already going on with all the streaming services and everything. So really go there and learn what's going on. How is our world changing? And once you figure that one out, you can actually create a career that is based on these new changes and that is going to last longer. Also, there's kind of like a science of creating catchy art. So if we start analyzing and if we look at the data, if we look at research that's been done, kind of like really chop it up and look at it from a rational viewpoint, you will see that there's a lot of very clear messages, what works in music and what doesn't work. And if you are one of the people who can actually look at the data that's presented to you, also be analyzing your own data and trying to improve step by step by step by step, seeing how this actually works and just like finding yourself in that new kind of space by using the data, you'll have a huge advantage, like enormously huge. If you're able to read the signs, which is, you can think of it like it's a cryptical kind of thing, right? You're in ancient Egypt and there's like this huge wall of all hieroglyphs and these paintings. And what does it mean? Well, you can actually sit down and start figuring out what it means. And it's even better now than it is in ancient Egypt, because you can just like try out things and see, if you try out things, how they change the data, how you get a different report from the analytics on how your music performed, how your content performed, how many people came to a concert, and so on. So you can actually see real-time changes with the aspects that you're changing. You can do like so-called A/B tests if you do advertising and so on. And by seeing those, you can kind of scientifically go and figure out what all these hieroglyphs mean and what this means for you as an artist, how you can advance your career. It's basically going to give you more opportunities of connecting with people. It's going to give you better opportunities to earn money. You are effectively going to earn much better because the stuff that you do is going to increase in quality and it's going to differentiate itself from that what other people are doing who are not using analytics. So make sure to go out and scrutinize everything that you create on how this performs. Look at it like a scientist. Let's go and research what works and what doesn't. And then we also have like the spiritual aspect. That's like the fourth dimension. And this one is like really, really interesting because this one goes super deep. And I am pretty convinced, I'm not 100% sure at this point, but I feel like once you connect with people on this level, like once it clicks, you are forever connected. Nothing is going to change that. Nothing is going to differentiate that relationship. It's always going to be there because it's going to be a very deep and authentic connection. And how to incorporate spiritual elements into your art is, I find, a very, very rewarding skill in the game of the arts. If you think about it, all the composers, all the artists before the 1800s, they all felt like they were called by God to do what they were doing. They all felt like they had this divine, not just gift, but also like divine task to produce and to create what they were creating. why don't we do that today? We kind of lost ourselves in the enlightenment type of thinking. Let's question everything. Let's not go there. And while this has kind of liberated people from certain prisons, it has also been very damaging in the quality of the things that it provides, like especially the depth of everything that is relevant to humans, like to the human aspect of humans. And there's so many emotional, physical, logical aspects that we can still cover. And there are even more spiritual ones. But if you look at them, they kind of all point to one, which is the actual reason for being here. Like, why are we here? Why are you here? What's your life supposed to be? What's your life supposed to mean? It's all a question for purpose. And once that you can kind of find that and kind of elaborate it with yourself in depth, this is going to be one of the most important things that you can do for yourself as an artist, is what I find. Like, if you not just logically arrive at your purpose, but like with your whole being, where everything is aligned, because you're not going to find it spiritually if like the other parts aren't aligned, like body, emotions, mind. Like the spirit is built to be in synchronicity with all those, and you want to be aligned with everything. So once everything is in its place, you can actually be living your purpose, and it's going to be a complete game changer because it comes from another place. It will lead you and others into another place. And when you look at the truly genius people out there, like the ones that are having amazing careers and doing amazing things, you can tell right away these people are living in a different reality. These people are motivated by something else. They're expressing something else. And this is kind of the essence of that, what I'm saying, that is the spiritual realm. Like, if you can tap into that part of yourself and you can cultivate it and grow it and help it grow like every single day, everything is going to change. And I mean, just everything. That's been the food for thought that I brought to you here. And ultimately, when you do that, you kind of are adapting your methods to the universal language that we have, that is music. Because the music kind of stays the same. The language is there. The rules of the language are there. This is very similar to the evolutionary thing that I talked before. We're just adapting like the circumstances, or we are adapting to the circumstances that we have today, so that we can actually fit it to be a connection with everybody else, so we can live in the world and create this kind of music together. And we actually still find meaning in the music, and that through our meaning, we find the music. So before we close today's episode, let me ask you this. Having listened to all these aspects, like the physical, emotional, the logical, and the spiritual, which of these are you the most modernized, most up to date? Like, which of these aspects have you been already working on? Have you been adapting like to the modern world? And which of these aspects are kind of a little bit your weakness? Like, you know, you could improve. There's a little bit of work to do. Make sure and just write them out to yourself and say, okay, these are the ones that I'm already figuring out, or I already have figured out. And these are the ones that I want to be working on in the future. And not just write it out that you want to be working, but actually commit. Say to yourself, this world is changing. It's going to change faster and faster and faster. And I commit to adapting into this great future with everything that I've got, so that I can create what I'm actually supposed to be creating in this world. And this is how it connects to you, how it connects to your being, like a reason for existence, right? And This is just a bridge from where the world is right now, where it's going to be, and where you are right now, where you came from, and where you are going to be. I really hope you did get a lot out of this episode. It's one of the topics that I find the most interesting, as I've said in the beginning. If you have any remarks, any questions, do shoot them my way. You can do that by commenting on this podcast. You can do that by email, or you can do that even by joining the Artful Maestro community, which is a exclusive community where people can apply to join. It's basically classical musicians who are furthering their career and who are growing together, learning from each other. It is free to join. However, you have to be approved. So if you want to join, do send out a form. You can find the link below and just apply to be a part of it. It's a really cool place where everybody's supporting each other and where we are trying to find the ideas of the future, how we can actually establish classical music in the world that's changing so fast. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here with me on this journey. I wish you a good time and see you in the next episode.